Good morning Year 4, and this is your literacy video for if you've got this booklet or this booklet on Tuesday the 9th of February. I'm going to start by saying a very big well done, and that's to Alex for a great effort with his handwriting. Please keep it up and keep up the great effort at home, and let's see who I can mention next time. Now, we always start our literacy lessons by looking at some high frequency words. And today you'll notice that I've had a go at spelling these words, but I don't think I've done my very best spelling. So I'm going to say the word, you're going to listen and look and see if you can spot any mistakes. So the first one is called. Now, have I spelt that correctly, Year 4? K-or-l-d. I haven't, have I? Well done if you spotted that at home. So, called, k-all-d. Okay. Next one then, came. What do we think about that one, Year 4? I've still got an A sound in there, but is it the correct one? No, it isn't. It needs to be our split digraph A. Well done if you spotted that. Okay, then we've got children. What do we think about that one? Yeah, brilliant, that one's spelt correctly. Over here then we've got come. Is that one spelt correctly? Brilliant. Could. Okay, so that one isn't spelt correctly. Who can remember how we spell could? It's a bit of a tricky word. Okay, so let's see, you got this one right. Could. And then finally we've got cried. And that one is also spelt correctly as well. Well done if you managed to spot my mistakes. Now we're going to start by looking at this booklet first of all, okay? And if this is your booklet, your learning question for today says, can I create a menu using prompts? Okay, now a menu is where you can choose what you would like to eat, and we have a standard menu, don't we? When we go down for our dinner, we get a choice of what we would like. But today, we're going to be looking at Sandon Cafe. And I've chosen some of our favourite Sandon meals. So here we've got sprinkle cake, lamb pie, flapjack, fish and chips, cheese whirl and a cookie. Okay, so we've got lots of different choices there. We've got some things that we would have for our lunch, and then we've got some things that we would have for our pudding, haven't we? And the first thing we need to do is we need to decide which ones are what we'd have for our lunch, our main, and which ones we would have for our pudding. So let's get my food back on. Okay, so the first one is sprinkle cake. Okay, so what do we think? Is it a main or is it a pudding? It's a pudding, well done. Sprinkle cake. Okay, next then we've got lamb pie. What's lamb pie? Is it a main or is it a pudding? Brilliant, so that one's a main. It's what we'd have for our dinner before our pudding. Okay, then we've got a flapjack. One of my favourite puddings from school is a flapjack. Then over here we've got fish and chips, what we normally have on a Friday. That one's our main. And then we've got a cheese whirl. What's a cheese whirl, guys? Well done, that's also a main. And then finally we've got a cookie, and I know you guys love Cookie Day. Brilliant, so you can see that I've used the items of food and sorted them into either main courses, what we'd have to eat for our lunch, and then puddings. Okay, and what you've got to do today, Year 4, in your booklet, is you're going to turn to page 23. Let's pop it under the visualizer so we can all see. Okay, so for my example on my whiteboard, we went to Sandon Cafe, but in your booklet the cafe is called the Hungry Horse Cafe, and you can buy lots of different items of food. I can see a hot dog and some chips, and I can also see some ice cream, which is my favourite. It's then asking you to write the 3 main courses, and remember your main course is what you would have for your lunch, okay? And then write the 3 puddings, that's what you have after your lunch. It then asks you, what is the name of the cafe? So again, look at the top of your sheet, and then it asks you to draw your favourite food and write down what you've drawn. So here you draw a picture of it and then write down what it is. But once you've done that, you know I like to set you an extra challenge. So your challenge for today says describe your favourite food. So here in your booklet, you've just drawn your favourite food and then told me what that is. And what I'm asking you to do now is to describe it. Okay, so my favourite food is cottage pie. So in that box I would have drawn a cottage pie, and then in the line I would have written cottage pie, but then I want you to describe it. So I've written, my favourite food is cottage pie because I love mashed potato and I like all of the vegetables covered in gravy. And if you have a look at this picture, you can see some vegetables underneath all of that mashed potato. Okay, don't forget to take a picture of your challenge as well as your page from your booklet. And now let's have a little look at this booklet. Okay, so if you've got this one, your learning question for today says, can I understand the language used in a narrative? And a narrative is a story. And our story today is called The Selfish Giant, and we can see him here. And if you look at his face, he doesn't look like a very nice giant. He is very selfish because he's got the most beautiful garden. And the children try to play in his garden. But when the giant finds out, he sends them away and tells them to never come back. And because he is so unkind, his garden stays in winter forever. It It doesn't change, so it's always cold, it's always snowy, it's always windy, until one day the children sneak back in. And where the children start to play, all of the snow disappears and we start to see that fresh green grass reappearing. Okay. Now, because today's learning question is all about the language used, and that just means the words, I've got a new reading dog for you. And his name, I'm going to write it underneath, is Victor. And Victor is the reading dog that focuses on vocabulary, and vocabulary is just the words that are used. Okay, so I've chosen some of the keywords that I think we'll need to know before we start our reading. Okay, so the first one is furiously, and furiously means angry, mad or cross. Okay, who do you think we could describe as furiously from what I've already told you on our narrative? Then we've got the word blossom, and blossom means where the flowers start to open up. Instead of being tightly shut like a bud, they start to grow and open. We've got roaring, which is a loud noise, and twittering. And twittering is another word for birds tweeting. Okay, so let's have a little look at your text together. And today you're going to turn to page 30. Okay, so I'll read the first part for you then, year 4, up until here, and then it's going to be down to you. So, the selfish giant. Every afternoon, the children played in the giant's garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass and beautiful flowers. The trees were full of birds that sang sweetly. Sounds like a very nice place to play, year 4. One day, the giant came back. He had been away for many years. When he arrived, he saw the children playing in his garden. "What are you doing?" he shouted furiously, and the children ran away. "This is my garden," said the giant. "I won't let anyone but me play here." He built a high wall around the garden and put up a sign, "Keep out." And now I would like you to finish the rest of the text, year 4. Remember to underline any words that you don't know the meaning of. So once you've done that, let's have a little look at our questions. So question number 1 is asking you to find 2 adjectives that describe the grass. And remember, adjectives are describing words. I could describe my hoodie as blue and warm. So what words are used to describe the grass? So I remember reading about the grass right at the start. So I'm going to skim read the text looking for that word grass. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so I found grass. And then I'm going to look at the words around it to see if that helps me. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass and beautiful flowers. So what words are used there to describe the grass, year 4? And you're going to copy them down. Question number 2, what do you think furiously means? And we've already spoken about that. And then question number 3, write down a word to describe how the children felt when they left the garden. So I'm going to read you that little section again, and I want you to imagine that that's you. Okay, so imagine you are in the garden when the giant returns. "What are you doing?" he shouted furiously, and the children ran away. "This is my garden," said the giant. I won't let anyone but me play here. He built a high wall around the garden and put up a sign, "Keep out." So you were having such a lovely time playing in your favourite area until someone comes and stops all of your fun. And he's not very nice about it, year 4. How would the children feel? Why is the giant described as selfish? So have a little think about what selfish means. Does it mean that you're kind and share, or that you only think about yourself and what's yours is only yours? Okay, so have a little think about what selfish means. And then what does this story teach us about being selfish? So the giant is very selfish, and because he's selfish, something happens to his garden. What is that happens? And that will help you to answer question number 5. And then finally, it says, did you like this story? Why or why not? We're going to have a go at answering that one together on my board. So, now I did like this story, so that's how I'm going to start my sentence. I did like the story because I like the story because it teaches you about sharing. So I did like the story because it teaches you. And about was one of our high frequency words from a few weeks ago. About Okay, brilliant. Now, once you've done all of your questions, I've got one final challenge for you that says make a list of all of the adjectives used to describe the garden. And remember, adjectives are describing words. And then finally, guys, let's roll our dice to have a little think about what we've learnt today. Landed on number 3. Did you learn anything new? And if you did, don't forget to write that down. Make sure you take a picture and send it to the Year 4 email address.